In the year 2157, humanity has achieved remarkable advancements, eradicating wars, hunger, and terrorism. The Earth's environment has fully recovered, medicine has progressed to the point where no disease is fatal, and space travel has become routine. Max, enjoying the freedom of space exploration in his personal spaceship, avoids his family's constant calls urging him to return to college. His journey takes an unexpected turn when an asteroid suddenly collides with his ship, severely damaging it and forcing him to initiate an emergency landing. However, the ship's controls become unresponsive, leading to a crash on the nearest planet. Max barely escapes before the ship explodes, leaving him stranded on this unfamiliar world. As Max explores his surroundings, he stumbles upon remnants of a campfire and soon spots a creature lurking nearby. Attempting to communicate with it, he's interrupted when a soldier named Zeph appears, aiming a weapon at him and speaking in an unintelligible language. Max reaches for a translation device on his belt, but Zeph quickly strikes it with his fire weapon, rendering it useless. Max is then arrested and taken to a nearby town, which resembles a bleak version of Earth, similar to what Max has only seen in history books. In the town, scientists strap a helmet onto Max to probe his thoughts during an interrogation. Despite their efforts, they refuse to believe that Max is an alien and decide to transfer him to a mental institution in the capital, with Zeph as his escort. As they prepare to leave, the locals suddenly begin chanting their national anthem with fervor, pledging loyalty to the government. In the midst of the chaos, Zeph collapses from a seizure and is swiftly taken away by the authorities. On the journey to the capital, Max observes the town's deteriorated state and the towering structures scattered every few miles. Zeph explains that these towers are essential for defense against enemies. Just then, an explosion topples one of the towers, causing debris to rain down on the road. The chaos results in the deaths of several people and the destruction of most of the trucks in their convoy. A massive metal rod impales the truck Max and Zeph are in, trapping Zeph under the rubble. Max, displaying extraordinary strength, pulls Zeph free just before the spreading flames can reach them. It is then that Max learns about the rebels who are attempting to overthrow the government, hence the need for the defensive towers. With no vehicles left, they are forced to continue their journey on foot. Upon arriving in the capital, Max catches the attention of Strider, the head of the Department of Special Research. Strider orders his assistant, Funk, to bring Max to his office. Meanwhile, Max is confined in a high-security facility where he's submerged in a water tank as scientists continue probing his mind. Funk, using Strider's credentials, interrupts the experiments and takes Max away, much to the dismay of the scientists. At the same time, State Prosecutor Omnic, who also has an interest in Max, instructs his subordinate to monitor any news related to him. When Omnic notices the time, he retreats to his bathroom to privately endure a seizure. As Funk drives Max away, he becomes increasingly nervous, frequently checking the time. Eventually, Funk too succumbs to a seizure. In the ensuing chaos, the authorities arrive to take him away, and the locals begin chanting in support of the government, hurling insults at Max for not joining in. Taking advantage of the confusion, Max makes a daring escape. Meanwhile, it is revealed that the country is under the tyrannical rule of a dictatorship led by the Unknown Fathers, a group that includes Strider and Omnic. These leaders are ruthless, even among themselves, with any mistake resulting in the immediate execution of the responsible father. Max eventually finds refuge in a bar, where he meets a waitress named Rada and quickly becomes enamored with her. When a patron becomes overly aggressive with Rada, Max steps in, disarming the man and injuring his arm to drive him away. Max and Rada spend the afternoon talking, with Max sharing stories of Earth and space. Rada reveals that she is Zeph's sister and invites Max to stay at her home. As they leave the bar, the disgruntled customer from earlier confronts them again, this time with reinforcements. Despite their numbers and weapons, Max effortlessly evades their attacks and defeats them in hand-to-hand combat. Even when the group resorts to using ropes and whips, Max turns their weapons against them, dragging them around before knocking them out. In the end, the original attacker throws a small, bladed sphere at Max, but Max easily dodges it, leaving the man defeated. When they arrive at Rada's home, Zeph is shocked to see Max but recalls how Max saved him and agrees to let him stay. As days pass, Max learns more about the local culture, including the disturbing fact that his thoughts are being broadcast on television like a movie. The locals are taught that they live inside the planet, with no knowledge of other planets or stars. The government, led by the Unknown Fathers, claims to have ended the war against rebels known as degenerates using the towers, thereby saving the nation. Zeph, passionate about defending his homeland, urges Max to join the Guard. Since Max lacks any identification, Zeph has to convince Commander Chachu to allow Max to enlist. Before officially joining the ranks, Max undergoes rigorous training, where he is taught the national chant and must participate in grueling mission trials. These trials involve sprinting through blazing zones and firing at targets that symbolize the so-called degenerates. Max excels in marksmanship, but his companion struggles, prompting Max to offer some helpful advice. Later, however, Guy reprimands him in private, warning that their superiors demand strict discipline and such assistance is frowned upon. At home, Max rigorously exercises while Guy quizzes him on the rulebook to test his memory. They often engage in sparring sessions as well. In his downtime, Max spends time with Rada, and their relationship gradually deepens, culminating in a kiss. Once Max completes his training, he is officially accepted into the army and participates in his first raid on rebel territory. During the raid, the soldiers unleash a terrifying level of brutality, storming buildings with bombs and viciously assaulting anyone in their path. Max is horrified to realize that the rebels are simply frightened civilians. In shock, he drops his weapon, unable to continue the assault. While his comrades round up the captives, a hidden rebel emerges and opens fire, but he is quickly subdued, with Chachu ruthlessly kicking him for sport. Max is forced to watch as dozens of ordinary people are harshly arrested and shoved into transport trucks. Chachu confronts Max about dropping his weapon, and Max explains that he had imagined the degenerates to be monstrous creatures, not impoverished citizens. Chachu sneers, calling the rebels trash, but admits they feel pain like anyone else, though Max coldly notes that he himself does not feel pain. Later, the captured rebels are brought before the Fathers, who subject them to blinding, scorching lights during their interrogation. Some prisoners vehemently deny any rebel affiliation, while others curse the Fathers, accusing them of countless deaths. The Fathers mete out punishments based on the prisoners' attitudes. Some are sentenced to hard labor, while others face execution. One defiant rebel displays his mechanical arm, which he had to get after the guards severed his original limb. The Fathers punish him by sealing him in a suit filled with a skin-burning gas, a gruesome spectacle that Max is forced to witness while concealing his disgust. Afterward, Max tries to confide in Guy about the immorality of their actions, but Guy fiercely defends the government, unable to see the wrong in their methods. Meanwhile, Funk finally tracks down Max's location due to his growing notoriety. That evening, Max and Guy are summoned to Chachu's office, leaving before Funk can reach their home. Chachu, still suspicious after Max's earlier behavior, demands that Max prove his loyalty by executing 2 rebels who have been sentenced to death. Max leads the rebels away, pretending to comply, but instead releases them and decides to confront Chachu. Max declares that he is done with the army and their cruelty. Enraged, Chachu opens fire on Max, ignoring Guy's desperate pleas for mercy. Believing Max to be dead, Chachu drags a distraught Guy back to the capital, leaving Max's body in the forest. Meanwhile, the Fathers convene to discuss strategies to finally crush the rebels' resistance. Umnuk, one of the Fathers, suggests that this is an opportune moment to consolidate their forces into a massive army, hinting at his desire for further conflict. The others agree, but they also acknowledge that they need a pretext to rally public support for a renewed war, possibly by staging a fake assassination attempt. Later that night, a group of rebels stumbles upon Max in the forest and are astonished to find him alive. His body is healing at an extraordinary rate, thanks to the advanced medical technology of Earth. Max explains that his people have long since eradicated the concept of fatal wounds. Only a direct shot to the head could truly end him. In return, the rebels reveal the truth about their situation. The Fathers are tyrannical dictators who seized power through force, and the towers are not for defense but are actually used to emit waves that brainwash the population. These waves are the reason why everyone experiences synchronized patriotic fervor twice a day. Those who are immune to the waves suffer seizures instead, and the government labels them as degenerates to justify hunting them down. At that moment, the towers emit their brainwashing waves, and the rebels brace themselves by biting down on sticks to prevent choking during their seizures. In the city, Umnuk privately does the same. Max, unaffected by the waves due to his earthling physiology, assists the rebels as they endure the ordeal. Afterward, Max and the rebels hurt through a fence to infiltrate the territory where the towers are located, ready to take the next step in their fight against the oppressive regime. As the rebels launch their harm, the alarm blares throughout the facility. Max charges through the chaos without hesitation, ignoring the bullets whizzing past him. With nothing but his fists, he swiftly takes down any soldier who dares to stand in his way. The rebels suffer casualties, with some attempting to find cover behind walls as they continue their desperate fight. Max manages to reach the base of the tower and quickly plants a series of bombs before making a daring escape. He throws a rope through the hooks on the rebels' clothing, dragging them out of the facility with his immense strength, regardless of whether they're alive or unconscious. The group narrowly escapes into the forest just as the tower is obliterated by the explosion. Sadly, one of the rebels succumbs to his injuries, leaving only Max and one other as the survivors. Some time later, Max sneaks back into the city and reunites with Rada, unaware that a nosy neighbor has spotted him and alerted the authorities. When Guy returns home, a heated argument ensues, with Guy insisting that Max leave to avoid further trouble. At that moment, the authorities arrive, forcing Max to flee in order to protect Rada and Guy. He quickly engages the soldiers waiting outside, efficiently taking them down. However, the situation turns dire when Chachu takes Rada hostage, leaving Max with no choice but to surrender. Max is thrown into a prison cell filled with other detainees, including Zeph and the man with the metal arm. Meanwhile, Strike visits Omnic, who forces him to sit on a deliberately uncomfortable chair designed to subtly torture his guests. Omnic, in charge of the re-education program, listens as Strike requests Max's release for study purposes, and the two discuss a potential deal. However, after Strike departs, Omnic reviews Max's profile and discovers that Max doesn't experience seizures. Seeing an opportunity, Omnic orders his subordinates to kidnap Max and stage his disappearance, sending a message to Strike claiming that Max died in the line of duty. The next morning, the prisoners are sent to the forest to clean up the remnants of war, collecting discarded weapons. Suddenly, defense robots appear and open fire, forcing the prisoners to drop to the ground. The robots continue to fire a weapon in a relentless circle, leaving the group no choice but to wait for an opportune moment to strike back. One by one, the prisoners manage to take down the robots until all are destroyed. As they continue their search, Zeph shares information with Max about the creature he encountered upon his arrival, warning that they are mutated humans and must be unalived on sight to avoid being unalived themselves. While exploring, Zeph falls into a concealed pit, prompting Max to jump in and help him. They discover a network of underground tunnels and cautiously navigate through them until they stumble upon an old, abandoned facility. They spot a shadowy figure sneaking around and decide to turn on the power, revealing ancient equipment inside. Distracted by lenses that display images of a desert, they fail to notice the creature sneaking away. Max tells Zeph not to fire a weapon when they realize the creature has escaped. As they inspect the area, they are horrified to find human bones scattered on the ground. The creature then manages to overpower Zeph, holding him in a deadly grip, but Max uses his brute strength to wrestle the creature and ultimately subdues it, saving Zeph just in time. Later, while Zeph is asleep, Max removes the ropes binding the creature and allows it to flee. Zeph is furious when he finds out, but Max explains that these beings are not mere animals. The following morning, Max and Zeph reunite with the man with the metal arm and continue their search. Deep in the forest, they come across a small red tank ensnared in vines. As they approach, they are ambushed by a black tank that moves freely. The group takes cover behind the trees and tries to fire back, but their bullets have no effect on the tanks. Fortunately, Max devises a plan. He fired his weapon at the red tank, provoking it to fire back, inadvertently destroying the black tank in the process. Seizing the opportunity, Max sneaks under the red tank, climbs inside, and cuts the wires, disabling it. After sharing a meal with his companions, Max announces his intention to escape. Although there are stringent security measures at the borders to prevent prisoners from fleeing, Max commandeers the disabled tank and drives it southward. The tank triggers hidden mines, but they explode harmlessly around it. When Umnuk learns of Max's escape, he throws a furious tantrum in his office. As Max approaches a checkpoint guarded by soldiers, he is appalled to see the bodies of executed rebels displayed as a warning. Attempting to remain hidden inside the tank, he realizes that protocol dictates all vehicles must be inspected. When a soldier jumps onto the tank, Max recognizes him as Guy and quickly pulls him inside. Max then plows through the gate, ignoring the soldiers' gunfire, which is unable to penetrate the tank's armor. As they venture into uncharted territory, Guy, panicked by the potential consequences of their actions, tries to escape. But Max restrains him, promising that a far better life awaits them beyond the borders. And that's the thrilling tale of Max's journey in a dystopian world where rebellion, tyranny, and the quest for freedom collide. Max's resilience and determination to break free from oppression remind us of the power of hope, even in the darkest of times. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more exciting movie breakdowns. What did you think of the story's twists and turns? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.